During Hollywood's golden age, stars were expected to embody flawless perfection. But behind the glamour, many iconic actors secretly lived with physical deformities, chronic illnesses, and disabilities, often hidden from the public. Some were born with their conditions. Others suffered due to accidents, war injuries, or the ruthless demands of the studio system. To maintain their careers, these stars endured painful treatments and emotional hardship. Today, we pull back the veil to reveal the haunting reality that fame often concealed. These are the golden age stars who hid deformities and disabilities, yet still managed to define an era. 1. Rita Hayworth, Hollywood's burned beauty. Rita Hayworth wasn't born Rita Hayworth. She entered the world as Margarita Cancino, a Spanish-American dancer with proud ethnic features and a low hairline that Hollywood found too foreign. To make her more marketable, Columbia Pictures ordered one of the most invasive makeovers in film history. Hayworth underwent agonizing electrolysis treatments over a year to raise her hairline, with electric needles burning her scalp weekly. There was no anesthesia. She bit down on towels, her blouses soaked with blood, all to transform into the face Hollywood demanded. But even after her transformation, Rita continued to suffer. She had a leg-length discrepancy that caused chronic hip pain, masked on screen with custom-made heels. Her sultry dancing came at the cost of searing discomfort. And while fans adored the image of Gilda, Rita felt like a prisoner of it. "Men go to bed with Gilda," she once said, "but they wake up with me." Behind every glamorous photo shoot was a woman in pain, both physical and emotional, who had been rewritten to fit a fantasy. 2nd, Lon Chaney Sr., the body that became the monster. Known as the Man of 1,000 Faces, Lon Chaney was famous for playing grotesque characters like Quasimodo and the Phantom of the Opera. But his brilliance and transformation came from a deeply personal place. His parents were both deaf, and he grew up learning to express himself without words. That emotional skill translated into physical sacrifice. Chaney didn't use special effects. He contorted his body, strapped wires and iron to his limbs, and built elaborate torture devices to reshape his figure. For the Hunchback of Notre Dame, he created a 70-pound rig that crushed his torso so tightly it caused internal damage. For Phantom of the Opera, he inserted wires into his face and painted his eyes with chemicals that temporarily blinded him. The pain was unimaginable, but Chaney endured it in pursuit of realism. The industry rewarded his commitment with fame, but not mercy. His body deteriorated, and he died relatively young, reportedly whispering before his death, "I created monsters. Now they've created me." 3. Clark Gable, King of Hollywood, slave to dentures. Clark Gable's confident smile defined masculinity in the 1930s and 40s. But behind that charming grin were full dentures. He lost all his natural teeth to gum disease by the age of 32. The dentures caused chronic infections and made kissing scenes torturous. Vivian Leigh, his Gone with the Wind co-star, complained his breath was unbearable. Joan Crawford rubbed peppermint oil under her nose before romantic takes. And to hide the whistle in his speech, editors worked overtime in post-production. He hated eating in public, covered his mouth while laughing, and feared his secret would leak. Beneath the crown of Hollywood royalty, Gable lived in shame, trapped in a prison made of porcelain. 4. James Dean, a rebel with real struggles. James Dean's cool, distant aura wasn't entirely an act. He was severely nearsighted and almost blind without glasses, yet was forbidden to wear them on screen. Directors had to position him physically for each scene, and his seemingly moody expressions were often just disorientation. On top of that, Dean had partial hearing loss. He frequently missed cues and improvised, giving his performances that famously delayed, intense feel. But it wasn't just style, it was survival. Behind the rebel icon was a man struggling to see and hear the world around him, misunderstood as difficult when all he wanted was clarity. 5. Merle Oberon, the reconstructed star. Merle Oberon, the elegant star of Wuthering Heights, carried two heavy secrets, one on her face and one in her bloodline. After a car crash left her with facial paralysis and scars, her cinematographer husband invented the OB light to hide the damage with soft shadows. Makeup artists rushed in between takes to wipe away saliva from her paralyzed cheek. But she carried another secret. She was Anglo-Indian. To succeed in racist 1930s Hollywood, Oberon passed as white. She used skin-lightening makeup and denied her heritage for decades, even rejecting her own family during a return visit to India. Her haunting line, "The face in my mirror isn't mine, and neither is the history they've given me." 6. Jean Tierney, perfect face, hidden mind. Jean Tierney's beauty was considered flawless, but she lived in darkness, both literally and emotionally. Tierney was colorblind, unable to distinguish red from green. In one incident, she mistook a prop for the wrong boat color during a scene and was ridiculed on set. That anxiety haunted her career. Even worse was her mental health. Studio doctors pumped her with vitamin shots filled with amphetamines and barbiturates, leading to manic episodes and psychosis. Electroshock therapy wiped out years of memory. She returned to film with cue cards, smiling on screen, crumbling off it. 7. Harold Lloyd, the three-fingered daredevil. Harold Lloyd, the comedic daredevil of silent cinema, lost his thumb and index finger in a prop bomb accident. He wore a prosthetic glove with crafted fingers for the rest of his career, fooling nearly everyone. Despite pain, reduced grip, and risk of infection, Lloyd performed his death-defying stunts, including the famous clock-hanging scene in Safety Last. Why? Because if the truth got out, he'd be uninsurable and unemployable. He didn't just act. He risked his life with one hand, hidden in plain sight. 8. Bela Lugosi, the vampire who couldn't see. Bela Lugosi's Dracula was mesmerizing, mysterious, and chilling, but those hypnotic eyes were squinting. He was legally blind. He couldn't wear glasses on set, relying instead on squints, memory, and luck. Add to that a war injury that caused chronic sciatica and a traumatic brain injury that hindered speech. Lugosi worked in constant pain. Morphine dulled the agony, but brought addiction. He died in poverty and obscurity, buried in his Dracula cape, a tragic symbol of a man who gave his body and soul to a role that consumed him. 9. Katharine Hepburn, trembling through greatness. In her 30s, Katharine Hepburn developed essential tremor, a nervous system disorder that caused uncontrollable shaking. Studios labeled her nervous, forcing her to cover her tremors with fast talking, constant movement, and calculated fashion. Her scarves, her posture, even her walk became defense mechanisms. Privately, she feared the world would think she was weak, yet she never let it define her. Her difficult reputation was a smokescreen, protection in an era where disability could end a career before the cameras even rolled. 10. Lionel Barrymore, Hollywood's first wheelchair star. Barrymore, a member of Hollywood royalty, suffered from arthritis so severe he became wheelchair-bound. MGM initially forced him into metal braces, even as he cried in pain on set. Only when he physically could not stand did they allow him to act in a chair, but cut his pay anyway. Yet Barrymore persevered, giving unforgettable performances in roles like Mr. Potter in It's a Wonderful Life. He became the first major star to perform openly with a disability, opening a path for others to follow. He showed the world that strength wasn't just about standing tall, but enduring with grace. The hidden price of perfection. The golden age of Hollywood was built on illusion, lights, makeup, costumes, all designed to make gods out of mortals. But beneath the glitz were stars living with secrets. Their deformities and disabilities didn't define them, but they shaped their courage, their choices, and their legacy. They were not weak. They were warriors in silk gowns and tuxedos. They smiled while bleeding. They danced through pain. They acted through blindness. They performed with broken bones, mental torment, and paralyzed faces, all for our applause. Now it's time we applaud them not just for who they were on screen, but for who they had to be to survive behind it. Their stories weren't just hidden, they were stolen. And today, we give them back.